Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to an episode of Remakes and Continuations with my co-host, Scott Harding from the You Run Podcast.
Hello. And we're in the same clothes as we were last time because we're full disclosure now. We don't do costume changes like we used to. We record back to back. Do you remember at the beginning when we used to?
Yeah, well, okay. So in the beginning, the first several we did, I had T-shirts for.
Yeah.
I don't have T-shirts for any of these.
And rightfully so. No one needs a T-shirt for this movie.
That's the biggest difference. And it was also back before I had like official Voices shirts that I owned. And like I made Steve and I these ones with our characters, but like we're the only ones that have them. And so I'm like trying to make sure I wear that. And like, you know, I'm on brand. But I used to have like when we did Nightmare on Elm Street, I wore like my Freddy shirt. And when we did Child's Play, I wore my Chucky shirt. And I don't have shirts for this shit. So
no, I don't think anyone has merch from this shit, do they?
I don't think that would be strange. Maybe somebody. I doubt it.
Yeah, there's some weirdo who's got merch for this.
Yeah, but
in the comments, if you're the weirdo who owns merch and what merch do you own?
Yeah, let us know because I don't know anything.
Let us know. Either, let us know because we need to block you.
Oh, well, we're back talking another remake. This one from 2010. It's a remake of a movie called Let the Right One In, but they retitled it to Let Me In. And yeah, this is hard because I feel like this is an example where the original was just so good that it's like, let's see, you know, like there's cautious optimism going in because you're like, maybe.
Yeah, the original is a fabulous movie. There is very little in that movie that I would change or I would adapt or I would expand on. It's done very well. And originally, this is from a novel, and the writer of the novel wrote the screenplay for Let the Right One In, the original movie. So having read the novel and then watched the movie, I can see the changes that he made. And I kind of appreciated all of those because he was heavily involved.
Yeah.
When I watched this and like the changes in this from the original movie and even more so from the original novel, and he's not involved in any way, shape or form, I'm like, yeah, I can see that you tried to make changes, but you're kind of missing the whole point of what the story was. You're idiots.
Yeah, it's like, okay, there are things that I didn't hate about it. I think, you know, some of the way that that this was filmed, like cinematography wise, I think it was very clear they were trying to kind of be close to the way that it was filmed originally. But I think some of the changes that were made, and I don't know, and so I haven't read the book, so I assume that some of the main, like the scene in the original is the pool scene. Like that's one of the biggest scenes that people talk about when they talk about Let the Right One In.
Yeah.
And so like that, the taking on of the bullies is like completely different in this one, right? Like they went like to a completely different place with it than they did in the original.
Yeah, and the original is closer to the novel, and I
figured it probably was. Yeah,
I'll be honest. The whole bully arc is something that I love in horror as a trope. I love when you get bullies picking on a poor defenseless kid, and I love that kid having the realization where he goes, I can fight back. And I like the element that it's another child. It's not really, she's a vampire. She's about 1,000 years old, but it's another child who says, you need to fight back. And I love that redemption arc for a kid to fight back. And in this, you kind of get the redemption arc where he first fights back and he smacks him in the face with a stick. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is. And then when they attack him again, I like the fact that she comes in and she fucks them up.
Yeah.
And I like the fact it's really brutal. I like the fact both of these movies are very bloody.
They are. They need to be. Yeah.
But the remake, the one thing I'm going to criticize heavily is the use of CGI. The best example of this, and I'll put the clip together. I'll send it. You can release it when we release this. If you do where she attacks the guy in the subway or under the
in the
tunnel,
tunnel thing. Yeah.
in the original, it's a small child jumping on a man, biting his neck as he flails around. In the remake, she's bouncing off the walls and
She's
she's
like an
like,
acrobat.
it's just awful. You're just like, no, no, no. Why are you doing that? Why have you become Spider Gwen? What are you doing?
And it's so easy. Okay, if you wanted to get the fastness of it, right? I feel like you just do a few poses and then you speed it up. Like you don't, but this is clearly not what they chose to do. The CGI bugs me a lot in this too, because everything else is so like well grounded in some semblance of reality. And then when that happens, you're just kind of taken out of it. You're like, well, that was kind of silly looking. Like, and that's the first scene. Yeah, that's the first scene where we see her be brutal. That's the first one. And
Yeah.
it should be super impactful and it should leave this like feeling, but instead you're just going, that was kind of ridiculous looking. Yeah, no, I agree.
I like the actor who plays her familiar, effectively, the old guy who goes out and captures
Yeah.
students and then bleeds them dry and then feeds her the blood.
Mhm.
One thing, so this is directed by the same guy who directed the Batman,
Yeah.
the latest one. When I watched this today,
Mhm.
the black bag mask with the eye holes,
Yeah.
it's almost identical to the Riddler in the latest Batman movie. Almost
Oh, he just likes
identical.
that look, huh?
Yeah, which is weird, but I spotted it today and I was like, oh my God, they're the same. Like it's the same mask, just the Riddler's is a little bit more polished off. It's like,
Sure.
but I like that character. I like what he does. I think the actual story is very good. This remake's just not as well executed as the original.
Yeah, yeah, because the story itself, I didn't have any problems with. It was just execution. I think there's scenes where I think it's very clear what they're trying to do. So, like the scene when Abby first comes into contact with Owen and she tells Owen, like, we can't be friends out of nowhere for like no reason. She's doing that because she wants to be able to be friends with someone and she can't be. And so she's sort of just like setting this premise, like she's the one in the control of the situation, because I think it ultimately will make her feel better about the fact that they can't be friends. And
Yeah.
so like moments like that, you're like, okay, got it. Right. But I don't know. I'm not remembering how far this is off if this happened in the original, but I thought it was, they're supposed to be, and I know Abby's a vampire. I get all of that. She's old, whatever. They're supposed to be like 12-year-olds. He is a 12-year-old. Okay.
Yeah.
And so with that scene, when she comes in and she like takes all of her clothes off and gets in the bed with him. Okay. I was like, and he realizes it and he's like, you're not wearing anything. And then they quickly divert and then they start talking about being boyfriend and girlfriend. And she doesn't want anything to stay this, or she doesn't want anything to change. She just wants things to stay. And I was like, so why was that there?
No idea.
Right? Like I'm like, so I had a hard time with that scene because I was like, I felt like that one moment pulled away from their conversation, because in my head, I was like, what is happening? Like,
Yeah.
what was the point of that? Because
and in the original, she's not a little girl.
right.
In the original, she's when she was turned, she was castrated. She's a little boy
Yeah.
who's lived her life as a girl.
And I wondered if they were going to go in that direction, because there's multiple times where Abby says, I'm not a girl. And I kept waiting for that to come up, but then it didn't.
No, and I don't know why they steered away from that, because I thought that was a really clever thing to use in Let the Right One In. When you have that realization that, oh, it's a boy, and you find out that they were castrated when they were turned, so they didn't have those lustful desires anymore. That then makes that character so much more intriguing, because
Yeah.
their only desire now is the lust for blood and having the control around the boy, that they don't lust for blood, that it is
It's
a
not
true friendship.
right. Yeah, I struggled with it because there were these sexual undertones throughout the film constantly. Like, and it was just, I don't know. I just struggled with that concept because I didn't feel like it fit the story they were telling. So, like I said, there's scenes where you're like, okay, understand completely what they're trying to do here. But then there were some things that would happen where you're like, okay, and maybe I really just missed something here. But there's that scene where the familiar is he failed because he fell over and the blood got all out. And so he comes back pretty much empty handed, right? Who is talking to him and kicking him? Who is that supposed to be?
I think it's supposed to be her.
But it's a male voice, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking, I'm like, I don't remember there being 3 of them together. It was supposed to just be the 2. It was supposed to be Abby and whatever his name is.
Yeah.
And so when I heard this other voice, I was like, who is that supposed to be? And it totally confused me.
I think they were trying to say that she has like a vampire voice, I think is where they were going in the remake. Like she has like a, oh, it didn't
It
work.
just came across like it was an older male.
Yeah.
They didn't make it monstery enough for it to be clear what they were doing. So it's kind of, like I said, some moments super got it. Other moments I was like, I don't know what's going on with this.
Yeah, and like the concept of a child vampire is one of the most intriguing things in vampire lore.
Completely agree.
Like vampire lore, if you read a lot of vampires and you know a lot about vampires, turning a child is not okay. Like
No.
they're not that vampire hierarchy. This is one of the things they frown
it's
upon.
taboo. Yeah.
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 So to have a child vampire, like you do in, for example, Interview with the Vampire,
Mm-hmm.
fabulous character because children can't
Love it.
control their impulses as an adult would.
Nothing. Yeah, they can't control anything. Their emotions, their impulses, their bodies, nothing.
Yeah, and like that concept's incredible. And seeing a character like Abby, where she has moments like where he cuts his finger. She's like, I've got to go because I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
And she goes and she kills someone. Like
Yeah.
to show a character who we know shouldn't have impulse control is brilliant. And in the original makes sense. In this one, she's very much a character that's grooming. So she's got her current familiar. He's getting older. He's making mistakes. In this remake, she is grooming the other boy to take his place.
Because he looks like him, right? That was the point of the pictures together. Like she basically did the same thing with the other guy, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did manage to understand all of that. Yeah. Yeah. It's all like, it's not genuine. It's like for her best interest. Like she's looking out for her best interest. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the original, that wasn't the case. In the original, they were just friends and they left together at the end. And you get the mimic scene where they're doing the Morse code in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, there is an epilogue in the book if you want to know what happened to those 2 characters.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to share?
Sure. Spoilers if somebody's interested in reading the book and hasn't read it.
Yeah, so they in the epilogue for the book, they get to their destination, which is another city. He gets a little bit older, but we're talking like a year. And she has a moment where she loses control and inadvertently turns him.
Oh.
And then they spend it. I think the wording in the book is something like they spend eternity together.
Okay.
So that they give you a kind of happy ending in the book.
It's sort of a happy ending, right?
Yeah, but that's like 7 lines at the end of the book.
Sure. Yeah, I liked the acting in this. I think the acting itself was fine. I know you said you're a fan of the bully arc. I am not. I think it's overdone. I think it's done so often, and in my opinion, I don't think is always necessary. I think it works in some semblances, like 80s horror movies for some reason, mostly Stephen King stuff.
I was about to say it.
Like it, and it's not just it's other ones too, but it's like it's just such a common thing, and it's the same thing that it ends up showing up in Jonah Hill, what's his name?
Hill. Yeah, Stephen King's son.
Stephen King's son, and he does the same thing. Like he plays on the bully thing, and I think there's times when it works really great, like in Carrie. I think the bullying works really great in Carrie. I I think that adults forget how mean girls really are to each other, especially at prepubescent and during puberty. I think people they just like forget about that. But for this, I will tell you, I fast forwarded the bully scenes because they were really upsetting to me. Like and I'm sure that's kind of what they're meant to do, but I think they just got to me so much in this one. I just even from the very first one, when they grab him and they throw him down on the ground and they pull up the underwear and then he pees on himself. And so like when it got to the part where he was in the bathroom with them, I fast forwarded it. I was like, I can't do this. But I did like the part where he got to hit him with that pipe or whatever it was. That was good.
Yeah.
I did like that. And then I was like, I got confused for a second because I was like, everybody was screaming all at once. And I was like, oh, okay. It's because they found a dead. I was like, why is everyone else screaming? They can't even see what he did to him from that risk. A lot going on in that one scene. And I did not care for the fact that they tried to give the bully this like, oh, well, his brother bullies him and that's why he's a bully. I don't give a shit. Don't give a shit. Like I was like, when it shows that part where he's got like his ear bandaged and then like you get to see Owen like, haha, that's what you get. But also like, I don't care. Like that didn't really add anything for me.
No, and like I'm very much a parent who tells their children, if you're being bullied, you tell the teacher. If you're still being bullied after you've told the teacher, you hit them so hard they never bully you again. And I had an incident with what is my eldest son now when he was about 13, where I was called into the school and they said, well, he's told us you told him to hit the bully. And I turned around to my son and said, what was he doing? He said he was pulling my hair and he was pushing me against a wall. I said, and where was the teacher? Oh, they were stood next to him telling him to stop. I said, did he stop? He went, no. I said, so what did you do? He said, I punched him in the face. I just looked at the teacher and went, you didn't stop him. You did not protect my child. So as far as I'm concerned, he done nothing wrong. Quite happy to sit here and argue about it. Or you can kind of draw a line under this, punish the other kid, and we'll call it a day. And they did.
Yeah, I'm in the same place where I'm trying. I mean, my kid's substantially younger than 13. He's only 6. But there was an instant where the teacher wasn't paying attention. They went to get snacks out of their lunchbox, and all the other kids took all of his stuff out of his lunchbox. So that day just happened to be a day I came to have lunch with him and didn't have any food. And I was like, why don't you have it? Where's your lunchbox? I thought he forgot it. I was like, oh, they took it. And I was like, what do you mean they took it? He's like, the other kids, they came up and they like took it all. And the teacher was like, well, that's why I always tell them, they're only supposed to get one snack. And I looked at her and I said, what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with the other children coming up and taking stuff? So I told Oliver when we sat down, I told him, I said, listen, if that happens again, you have mommy's permission to take your stuff back. You don't have to swing. You don't have to throw stuff. You don't have to be overly mean, but you have my permission to walk up to those kids and take your stuff back. And I told the teacher that he had my permission to do so. And she looked like she wanted to say something. And I just kind of dared her. Like, if you're not going to do anything, then I have no choice but to teach my child that he has to do it himself. Yeah. And I told her, I was like, I better not hear about this shit again. Like I'm not the parent, and it ended up not being an issue after that. But I had to tell him, like, you have permission to do that. You do not have to put up with that.
That's the right way to. And I think you, like me, we are very. I think when we go in and we sit and we talk to teachers, I think teachers kind of see us and go, this isn't the one. This isn't the one. This is not the battle I choose. I'm going to pick a battle with another parent.
Yeah, and I will say, it's so funny you say that, because when he told me the other kids took his lunch, the color drained from her face because we were all standing. She was like, "Fuck," because I've talked to her about other things that have come up as well, but. Yeah, you got me fucked up when it comes to my kids. Like I'm not playing. Yeah,
I'm not the parent you argue with when I say that's my decision. It's not well, we need to talk about this. No, there's nothing left to discuss. Like,
yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So the bully stuff is like, I'm with you on, like, I do like when the kids are able to get their revenge. Like I was totally cool with Carrie killing everybody. And I liked in this when he, he gets the opportunity, that first opportunity, before the later sequence where he hits the kid. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, and that's what happens. Like bullies don't understand that, like they pick and they poke and they do all this shit. But when it finally catches up to them, it's going to be a lot worse than the shit they did. Like,
Yeah.
And I did really like that part of it. But then it was like, they kind of have him like kind of teetering on like a crazy kid too. Cause he's like outside with the knife, like stabbing the tree. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of, a lot.
Yeah. Again, like let the right one in. I can't. If you've got an option of watching Let Me In or Let the Right One In, there is no choice. Let the Right One In is a
It's the right one.
5-star movie. It's a 9.5 out of 10, teetering on a 10. It's one of the best vampire movies that focuses on a child vampire ever made.
It's good.
And it's great. Let Me In, it is not. None of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the friendship was handled a lot better in the original too, as far as like, not even like being believable, but just in the sense of like the original friendship, it just felt so much more heartfelt. Like it felt so much more, because like you said, in this one, it feels superficial, right? Because it's like she's got this ulterior motive, and he's like, he runs away. He's like, I gotta go when he sees the pictures and all that. But then he like still goes back and he still tries to, and it's just, the friendship felt more, I guess it felt less toxic in the original. I don't know. It just felt more heartfelt though. And the friendship in this feels very forced, I think, in a lot of ways. And that part I didn't get as much out of this one for the friendship.
No, I didn't. The one thing I think is cool is where she tries to come in, where she's not allowed in, and she starts to sort of
That was
bleed.
cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
But that's probably the highlight, which isn't
she
a
would
great
go on
highlight.
to do that again in another remake. Just with different purposes behind it.
It's not the first time she's done it.
No. Definitely not. Yeah, I also thought like the relationship with the mom wasn't as good in this. Like there was like the parent side of things in this was just very like almost didn't even need to exist really.
It's
And I
like it
wasn't,
wasn't there. And like in the original, you get the scene, you get a couple of scenes with his mum. You also get the scene when he goes to see his dad, and he's really, really happy. And then his dad starts drinking with his friend, and then he gets really, really sad. And it has that additional build to why that character suffers with his family. Whereas this, it's like parents are bad, but they're kind of not here. Don't worry about it.
Like the mom always had a reason for being gone, and so she never had to really be around. And when she was, it was to tell him to have dinner. Like that was really it. She's like, come have dinner. And then like, you never see her and like, it was just a weird decision, I think, to even to do it that way, because she really just sort of fell into the background. Like it didn't, like if you remove the moments that she's there, it changes nothing in the film.
Yeah. And I think the dad speaks to him on the phone once in this movie.
And then you hear the one side argument in the beginning when they're having dinner. She's like arguing with him about the lawyer. And then he talks to him and he's basically just like, yeah, your mom sucks, but it's okay. You'll be fine. Like it's very dismissive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, badly handled, and the original handles it so much better. You see that the mum is not a good mum. She's not in the best place herself, and you see that, and it's all developed better, and you get more depth to it, which makes you care about that character more than this character.
And you also feel his isolation more because of that. You feel you can feel how lonely he is in the original because of those pieces. Where in this, it's like, well, he gets to just do whatever he wants, and his mom feeds him dinner every day. Like it's very like, I don't know. It just wasn't. It didn't hit the same for the setup of one of the reasons he would be so quick to connect to someone that maybe is super dangerous. Like it just didn't, click.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So what do you rate this remake?
2 out of 10.
Damn. I didn't think you were going to go that
Yeah, it's bad. It's bored. I think because if I saw this on its own and I hadn't seen the original and I hadn't read the novel, it probably would have got a middle of the road score. But having both of those things exist, both of which are so much better,
Yeah.
like this is so bad in comparison. I just don't like it. I'll never watch it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I don't really have a reason why, to be honest. I think I'm gonna give it a 3. I liked parts of it. Like there were parts of it that did work, they were fine, but there's more of it that doesn't. And it just felt like we always talk about like it's got to be a balance of the two things. It's got to be the nostalgia hits, but it's got to be something unique. And this got rid of all the things that worked in the original and kept the things that were familiar enough they could have done more with, or like it was just a very strange choice and to the cherry picking of what they were going to keep and or get rid of and change. And the changes just they made it a much weaker film, like a much weaker film.
Yeah, they took out all of the development that made you really care for the characters and replaced it with atrocious CGI.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not super good. And I will say, I don't think it's once again, it's not the actors. It's certainly not the actors. It's just the storytelling primarily, the things, the choices that they made. It just they messed up, I think, quite a bit. So
Yeah, it's directors and script writers. It's very rarely the actors that
yeah, they did the best with what they were given.
yeah.
And they were fine and believable as what they were, but it was just, yeah, it was too they took too much out. They changed too many things, I think, in
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well,
We keep agreeing. It's weird.
it's inevitably going to change.
Yeah.
It can't last forever.
No. It's been a while now. It's been a long time since we've disagreed.
Yeah. What was that? I don't even remember what the last one. We didn't really agree on mirrors. Did we agree on mirrors?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
we?
we agree. Yeah, we agreed on mirrors. I led you to believe I hated it and then actually
That's
liked it.
why it's in my head
Yeah.
that we didn't agree on it. That's right. You tricked
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
We've agreed for a while. We need something next time that we know one of us has strong feelings and the other one doesn't agree. We owe the audience an argument.
Yeah. We'll have to think about which one that is. We've got a list.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, we don't know what we're doing next yet. So that's far away. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with this episode of Remakes and Continuations. Scott's links, as always, are in the description, as well as the merch link should you decide you want some voices stuff for your house. There's even pillows. You can put them on your couch.
Oh wow.
When you're watching horror movies. Yeah, well, that's all I have for this one. So hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend coming up, and we will see you in the next one.
See you all later.